Hello, we have pre-calc lesson 54, parabolas. We remember from Algebra 2 last year, I believe it was lesson 100, we talked about parabolas. Excuse me. It was one of our really hard lessons last year, so we're going to go over some of it, and we're going to talk about some new things. So parabolas have what we call the axis of symmetry. It's literally the line that if you were to flip the graph, fold the graph on top of itself, that line would be exactly what it's symmetric about. These are all the different ways we can have it. It can be vertical, horizontal, or inclined to the vertical or horizontal. Okay, now our parent graph, okay, the axis of symmetry is the x-axis, and our vertex is the origin. It looks like this, and it is y equals x squared. This is a function, right? It passes our vertical line test. It is not one-to-one. It does not pass our horizontal line test, which means that it does not have an inverse. That's okay. And if we were to reflect it, right, our graph would look like this, and the equation would be y is negative x squared. Okay? Now, what if we were to do a translation? Okay, let's say we move our graph to the left 2 and down 3 from our parent graph. Our new equation, we would have y equals x plus 2 squared minus 3, right? The plus 2 is what moves us to the left 2, and the minus 3 is what brings us down 3. We could also do a reflection and a translation, right? Let's look at the same place. If we had y equals negative x plus 2 squared minus 3. Okay, so these are all the different things that we could have. Okay, now how do we obtain it? We obtain it, our equation, by completing the square. Okay, and our vertex form, which is very important, we have y is x minus h squared plus k. Now, we're going to add on to this later, but this is the basic that you need to know now. Our axis of symmetry is x equals h, and our vertex is h comma k. Notice this is a minus h. Okay? Super important that you know that this is not a negative h. Okay? And I'll show you that through these examples. Okay, so complete the square 2 graph, y equals x squared minus 4x plus 2. So, we complete the square. Here are our boxes, b over 2, b over 2 squared. This goes in parentheses. This is what we plus and minus. So my b is negative 4, divided by 2 is negative 2, square it is 4. So now I will have y equals x squared minus 4x. I'm going to add 4 here, and then I'm going to subtract 4 here. Right? Plus 4 minus 4 is really just adding by 0 creatively. Now the reason I do that is this thing here I can factor. Okay? I can factor it into x minus 2 squared. Notice that this is where I get that from. And then I'll have a minus 2 out here. Okay? My axis of symmetry, x equals h, x equals 2. This is my axis of symmetry. So when I go to graph this, I have 2. I want you to always graph your axis of symmetry like this. Okay? And my vertex is h comma k. Notice this is a positive 2. So I have 2, negative 2 here. Now, you have to find one other point on your graph, and we do that by plugging in 0 for x to get our y-intercept. So I have 0 squared minus 4 times 0 gives me that y equals 2. So when I plug in 0 for x, I get 2 for y, which means I go through this point here. Now my axis of symmetry tells me I have the same point. This is 2 away from my axis of symmetry, so I have the same point 2 away on the other side. You have to have these 3 points to graph it. Okay? All right, let's do another example. Same thing, we're going to complete the square to graph. Y is negative x squared minus 6x minus 8. Okay? The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out a negative x from here. So I get y is negative times x squared plus 6x. I leave the negative 8 as is. Now I complete the square. b over 2, b over 2 squared. This goes in parentheses. That's what we plus or minus. So b is 6 divided by 2 is 3, squared is 9. So I add a 9 here. Now I should subtract a 9 here, but I have to take this negative into account and multiply it by a negative. So I subtract a negative 9 or add 9. Now I can factor in here, so I get y is negative times x plus 3 squared plus 1. Now what this tells me, my axis of symmetry is x equals negative 3 because my h is a negative. Okay? I know it's negative because this is a plus. Vertex form shows that we normally have a minus. My vertex is h comma k. So I have negative 3, 1. Okay. I want you to show these. I want you to label it like this when you do these equations. Then I need to find my y-intercept. So I'm going to plug in 0 for x into my original equation. And I get that y is negative 8. So I have the point 0 comma negative 8. Goes through here. And then my axis of symmetry shows me I have the same point. It's the same y value. It's going to be 3 away, just like my y-intercept is. And that's my graph. And we know that it's downward facing because of this negative here. Okay, so we know that we've done this right. These are the 3 things I want to see every time. Now, if you had Ms. Van Bree last year, you probably didn't complete the square like this, and that's fine. Okay, if you are continually getting these problems wrong, I will require that you complete the square in this way. However, if you can show me you have a way that's better, that is okay. You can do that. I need to see this from everyone, though. You have to have your function in vertex form. You have to have your axis of symmetry labeled and your vertex labeled. Notice you cannot say axis of symmetry excuse me, is negative 3. That's not true. It has to be x equals negative 3. Also, you have to have y equals here. You cannot just say negative times x plus 3 squared plus 1. Oh, that's my function. No, you have to have y equals. You have to write it in the appropriate function manner. All right, so those are the only 2 examples we're going to do today. That should show you plenty. So you may go ahead and work on your other homework.